The transition from 8 billion people to exactly 1,000 is not just a demographic shift. It is the immediate and total collapse of the technosphere. When the population density of Earth drops to roughly one person per 500,000 square kilometers, the concept of a global civilization vanishes instantly. Phase 1, the Great Silence. Within the first 24 hours, the most striking change is the failure of the power grid. Modern electrical grids require constant load balancing and human intervention. Without engineers to manage fluctuations in demand or technicians to repair line faults, the world goes dark. Fossil fuel power plants are the first to fail as their fuel supplies are no longer managed by automated systems. Nuclear plants, however, are designed with automated fail-safes. As cooling systems lose power, these plants will enter a cold shutdown state. However, local radiation risks could emerge if backup diesel generators fail before the spent fuel rods are sufficiently cooled. The 1,000 survivors are now geographically isolated. Statistically, if these individuals are distributed randomly, the probability of any two people being within walking distance is effectively zero. Communication networks. The internet, cellular towers, and satellite links require massive terrestrial infrastructure. Without maintenance and a steady power supply, the digital world evaporates, leaving the survivors in a pre-industrial silence. Phase 2. Ecological rebound and urban decay. With human footprint reduced by nearly 100%, nature begins a rapid reclamation. This process is known as ecological succession. In urban centers, the lack of municipal water maintenance leads to immediate flooding. Underground subways and basements fill with groundwater within days as electric pumps fail. Without the heat island effect caused by human activity, local microclimates shift. Vegetation begins to crack pavement through a process called mechanical weathering. Roots expand in fissures, breaking down concrete and asphalt, while nitrogen-fixing weeds begin the long process of turning ruins back into soil. The 1,000 survivors face a paradoxical environment. They are surrounded by the corpses of a high-tech civilization but lack the numbers to operate any of it. While billions of canned goods and dry rations remain, they are finite. Survivors must pivot to a hunter-gatherer or primitive agrarian lifestyle before the shelf life of industrial food expires. Phase 3, the genetic bottleneck. The most significant scientific hurdle for a population of 1,000 is the minimum viable population. In conservation biology, researchers often cite the 5500s rule. This suggests that a population needs at least 50 individuals to prevent immediate inbreeding, and at least 500 to maintain enough genetic diversity for long-term evolutionary potential. If the 1,000 survivors can find each other and form a single community, they sit just above the threshold for long-term survival. However, if they remain scattered in small pockets of 10 or 20, the lack of genetic diversity will lead to the accumulation of harmful mutations. This creates what biologists call an extinction vortex, where a small population's health declines until it can no longer reproduce effectively. Phase 4, the new baseline. After a century, the descendants of the survivors will have transitioned entirely to a lifestyle dictated by the seasons. They will rely on wood, fire, and basic metallurgy salvaged from the ruins of the old world. High-tech tools like solar panels will have degraded into useless glass and silicon. The atmosphere begins to heal. Carbon dioxide level slowly stabilizes. The massive carbon sinks of recovering forests and oceans absorb the industrial excess of the previous era. The Anthropocene layer in the geological record, the era of human impact, becomes a thin, sharp spike of plastics and radioactive isotopes followed by a long silence. For the 1,000, the Earth is no longer a planet to be conquered, but a vast, wild frontier where the primary struggle is the preservation of knowledge. They are the curators of a ghost planet, tasked with restarting the story of humanity from a single, fragile paragraph.